Hello and welcome to another Looney Tunes review video. If you are new to the channel, make sure you subscribe to follow my journey to review all 1000 classic Looney Tunes shorts and give this video a like as well. So this is a review for The Cat Came Back, released in 1936. It's the 124th in the series and it's directed by Friz Freleng. At the time of this recording, it's not on any main Looney Tunes compilation disc set, and hopefully one day it will be because this has been beautifully restored since the last time I saw this. It is a bonus feature on the Walking Dead Blu-ray. No, not that Walking Dead. This Walking Dead, the one with Boris Karloff, which is actually a good movie. You should definitely give it a watch. But again, hopefully it'll make its way onto a proper Looney Tunes set. It is under copyright. It's not on YouTube unless Warner Brothers themselves choose to upload it, and it's pretty safe, so maybe they will one day. I don't know. But in case you haven't seen it, the story is nothing too complicated, but at least it's competent here, and I definitely have a few things to say about that. But you've got a cat family whose mother is teaching the kittens how bad mice are and how the kittens need to go after them. And you've got a mice family where the mother is teaching her family how bad cats are and how to escape them and mouse traps and so on. But one kitten and one mouse want to be friends, and that kitten accidentally gets into the sewers. The mouse goes after him, and of course the mothers are all worried about their kids, and yeah, it's all about that little kitten being rescued. Again, nothing too deep, nor should it be. Pretty straightforward. So in terms of trivia, there actually isn't that much for this one, although one of the peculiar things about this short is that it's had two Blue Ribbon reissues. Usually a short would be reissued once, where the title cards would be unfortunately discarded, which is a frustrating thing amongst us Looney Tunes fans, but it is what it is. But it would happen once and then that's it, right? But here it was done twice, so once in 1944 and once in 1954. I'm not sure of any other examples of Looney Tunes shorts being reissued twice in the Blue Ribbon program. If you can think of any, definitely let me know. At the very least, this is the earliest where it's been done twice as far as I'm aware. Voice acting wise, and this comes from the Wonderful Cartoon Voices book by Keith Scott, a book that you need to have in your library if you're a budding animation historian. So you've got Berneice Hansell. That one is pretty obvious when you actually hear the baby cat, because that's her usual high-pitched voice that she would use for sniffles and all those other high-pitched cutesy voices that were all over the animation scene in the 1930s. But she also does the voice of the mother, and that's actually closer to her actual voice. You've got the Mother Mouse, voiced by Elvia Allman. She was another prominent voice actress in the 1930s and used quite a bit.
Now listen, children. The cat's come back with a litter of her kittens. Now you've got to beware.
Now her little one just says one small line, but there's no notes as to who that is. Maybe it was Elvia just doing that one line, I don't know. Still, we know the main voice actors here, and it's an all-woman affair, which is quite unusual, especially for this time period. But before I go through this short from start to finish, one of the things I noticed when watching this short is that this is yet another one of those turning point shorts where you can see that some things are still stuck in the early 30s, but then you got some things that are now changing over to the new way of doing things ever since Tex Avery has come onto the scene. He had directed a few shorts by now, but he was at the studio beforehand, so his influence would no doubt be on many other directors, including Friz Freleng, because you'll notice that his shorts actually get more punchier and funnier. Is this short particularly funny? Not really. It is definitely more cute, but this is kind of reminiscent of what Tex Avery would do not long after this. Shorts like Ain't We Got Fun and those other mice ones that he would do, so it's the same type of flavor. Yes, Avery's efforts are definitely more funnier, but this one's definitely an interesting one to watch, because you have a story here that's quite solid. We're shown exactly who our characters are. They don't like each other. I mean, cats and mice, that's a no-brainer. That's an easy way of doing things. And we're shown that each family hates each other just cause. But we got the two rebellious kids, and they go off and do their own thing, and just shows that blind hate is never a good thing. Now, later on in this review, because this is a Merry Melodies short promoting a song, my good friend Manny Cruz, the Toonie Tenor, he's going to jump on board and go through the title track. Because as we open up this short, unfortunately, I've only got the Blue Ribbon reissue to work with here. I'm not sure what the original titles look like, and I don't think they exist, at least at the time of this recording. Hopefully one day it will show up in just some random collection. It has happened before. I'm sure it'll happen again at some point. But we hear our title song and we see the kittens are all playing. And you'll notice in a lot of these shorts, when you have a lot of characters on screen like this, there will tend to be some shortcuts implemented. And in this case, it will just be one cycle of animation that's repeated over and over again. Not saying it's bad, just an observation here. And it shows all these kittens just playing with each other. And again, if you look at those designs, they're still reminiscent of the way things were designed in the early 1930s, and soon this sort of design will be slowly done away with. So we see our mother cat, and we hear the rendition of our title song, done in a usual way that you would hear in these Merry Melody shorts by this point. And again, Manny will go through the origin of that song and who's singing and so on. But what I find interesting is that they start things off like a typical Merry Melody short at the time, but then we end up panning over to the mouse hole and we see our mother mice instilling the fear of cat into her younglings. But I like how the song changes, where it goes from this charming little song about a cat, whereas here it comes more of a sing-song type approach where she's singing a warning that the cat came back. You better watch out. And you can see the looks on the kids looking all worried, and as we see cat misspelled on that board there. I don't know, there's something about the 1930s design cats, especially the early 30s, I just love that image there. It's your typical Friz Freleng cat around this time. If you watch a lot of his shorts that have a cat in it, they all look pretty much the same. So probably the same character designer, but unfortunately, a lot of the crew were uncredited. Even if you had the title cards, certain things we're not going to know unless we have proper documentation. So now we're back to the cat, and she's talking about the mice with her little kittens, and one doesn't even pay attention, and she even smacks in the back of the head. For those who've seen this short on TV, let me know if that bit was cut out for television, because I would imagine it'd be a little bit on the brutal side. But in any case, the training is on, so this is kind of like an army camp all of a sudden. It looks like a patched up teddy bear where the words mouse is written on there. It looks like it's in a rather sad state, probably being used for quite a bit, but she sends some of her younglings over to attack this mouse as part of the training. One gets it and the sand pours out. I think that scene might have worked a little bit better if they probably had a few attempts. Whatever, it's not that big a deal. We're back to the mice family and their training, and this is definitely clever. So we see that piece of wood with cat on it, and she's got a hole there where she has a makeshift paw, and I gotta admit, that's a pretty clever way for these mice to do their training. But it's interesting that the first mouse goes in the hole but then walks sad looking all proud of himself, but when the other mice do it, they don't. So it's just one of those little observations, I guess. I just thought it was kind of interesting that that mouse did it and the others don't. But you will also notice in this short as we go through it, Freleng has been known as the master of timing, and this short definitely showcases that as well. But we have more training from the cat side of things, where we have a wind-up mouse. To be fair, that's a fair way to do the training, and one of the kittens goes after it, and there's a weird shot of the cat's head just turning around in a way that a cat's head shouldn't, but the kitten ends up catching it and ends up getting kicked in the face with the springs from underneath. Again, none of this is really ha-ha funny, but it does serve its purpose in establishing the story, and it builds things up to later on once we see the one kitten and one mouse trying to be friends. But I gotta say, that mother mouse is pretty brutal with her training in this next one, because we've got here a multiple mouse trap where if one of her younglings makes a mistake, well, they're pretty much a goner. She's definitely putting her younglings at risk here, but in any case, the one mouse goes through and ends up being successful in getting all the cheese, which mice don't really eat cheese, but whatever. It's one of those tropes that we just go with, I guess. So we're 2.5 minutes in, and yeah, maybe some of that training could have been shortened up a bit, maybe in the form of a montage or something, I don't know, but whatever. We're now at the next part of the story where one of the mice, for whatever reason, decides to leave the mouse hole, and one of the kittens decides to leave his part of the house, and the two end up bumping into each other. And the two end up confronting each other because, hey, their mothers instilled in them, hey, you have to hate the other side, so to speak, for, you know, reasons. And what reasons are they? Oh, they're just different. Yeah, I think a lot of people these days need that kind of lesson taught to them, because clearly they didn't learn this when growing up, and I'll say no more. But we see that the mother mouse spots the two and freaks out. And what's interesting is that the voice is actually sped up for certain sequences, and this is one of them. So maybe it's just only sped up when she's under stress or something. I don't know. The kitten, for some reason, follows her and gets promptly kicked out, and the poor kitten is all sad and cries to its mother. Mother cat is understandably not happy, and we get a Three Stooges moment, the good old eye poke. But for whatever reason, the mother cat doesn't even retaliate further. She just takes the kitten and that's that. So halfway through, everything's now established, and we see that the kitten is not happy, but the mouse calls him over, and they find a record player. And this is definitely a highlight of what I mentioned before with Friz's timing. I love the dance scene here, and again, Manny will go through the music in just a moment on this part, but the timing and the dancing to this music, it's probably my favorite part of this short, and even the animation itself, it's done really well here. It's not as crude as some of the other scenes in this short, especially at the very end, which I'll be pointing out soon. So again, it's got the early 30s type designs, but it definitely feels a lot more well-rounded here. I wonder who would have animated this scene. And in a great bit of layout, at least for this period of time, as they're dancing along, we pan over and whoops, the kitten falls down the sewer. Mother cat freaks out, and I love the expressions on the mother cat freaking out. That's actually a decent one to slow-mo, especially on an early Friz Freleng one. So she's being all hysterical, understandably so, and the mouse decides, nope, I'm going to go in there and try and rescue my new friend. Mother Mouse is also hysterical. You've been watching a lot of my reviews lately of the Jack King shorts recently about how I was mentioning that you don't care about what's going on and there's no real stakes at play. Here's a good example of the opposite. There are stakes at play here. The children are missing. They could die. There is a reason why I'm caring about what's going on. Now, you could argue about whether the animation and storytelling or whatever is effective here. You can't deny that, hey, you care about these parents. They actually want their kids to come back and not be hurt. But the mother mouse tries to use a plunger, which I think is, if I'm being honest, is hilarious. Though, to be fair, she probably doesn't know how deep this hole actually goes, but I thought it was kind of amusing. But the two of them end up crying, thinking that there's perhaps no hope for their children. It's really weird how the scale works here, because the mother cat's a full-grown cat, and yet, how big is this mother mouse? There's just no scale involved. I mean, you forget about it as you watch this short, but it's just a weird thing. The kittens seem to be the right size compared to their little mice counterparts, but the scale is just all over the place in this short, especially when you got these two mothers together. And also when you watch the last scene, the scale is rather interesting as well. And you got a whole sequence here involving the kitten crying for help in the sewers, and there's even a gag involving a cuckoo clock with the whole rule of three happening. I would argue this scene could have been trimmed. It does go on for that little bit too long, but it's not the worst thing I've seen, I guess. So the mouse finds an old guitar that happens to be in the sewer and ends up racing towards his friend. They end up at the end of the sewer into a whirlpool of some sort. And this water's green, so yikes, you gotta wonder what's in this water. But in a nice bit of animation, you've got the mouse leaping up, the cat grabs the tail, and they both end up twisting to the point where they end up going out of the hole like a helicopter. As they're speeding up, you'll notice in the background wolves. There was a staff member named Ralph Wolf that was at the studio. I don't know if he was at the studio yet, and I can't seem to find much information about him. So if you know more about the staff member Ralph, W-O-L-F-E, definitely let me know in the comments below, but that appears to be a reference to him in any case. I know there's a reference to him in Have You Got Any Castles? That was released in 1938, so maybe he was, I don't know. But they land, and you'll notice in the background that there is a poster there saying smoke humps. I'm not sure exactly what that's referring to, but that might just be a play on Camel cigarettes. You know, Camel, humps, ha. If you think it's anything else, definitely let me know. I mean, it's not like this short is full of pop culture references in the background or whatever, but that seems to be what all that is referring to. So we see the mothers are still crying over their children being potentially lost forever. Again, fair enough. But we pan over to the kids saying, hey, we're okay, and the mothers end up kissing their kids, mixing up their kids at first, of course, and everything seems to be okay. But then we cut to the last scene, which is a lot more crudely animated. I was looking up who would have animated on this short, and I believe Bob McKimson did, and if he did, no doubt all of the more well-rounded, beautiful shots in this short would be by him. Everything else, who knows. But this, I don't think, would have been Bob McKimson. He definitely drew a lot better than this, even earlier on. But we don't see our main two characters. Maybe they're out playing somewhere, I don't know. But this is one of those examples of the Tex Avery influence starting to creep in, because you got a moment at the end where you think, yep, everything's fine, you got a happy ending. And any other studio, including Warner themselves a few years ago, would have probably just ended here, everyone's happy, and the end. Nope, we got to add something at the very end where the mother cat remembers, oh yeah, my eyes got poked out. I don't like this person. And then they all just start fighting and we end right there. Now, I've been prattling on long enough, so my good friend Manny Cruz, the Toonie Tenor, he's going to go through the musical portion of this short. So, take it away, Manny.
Hi, everyone. This is Manny Cruz, the Toonie Tenor, coming at you with the latest edition of It's Time for Manny's Music Time with music trivia for you today. Bum! For the 1936 Merry Melody cartoon, The Cat Came Back, directed by Isidore Friz Freleng with musical direction by Norman Spencer. So this one doesn't have a lot of cues because the majority of it is eaten up by the title track. So let's jump right into it, shall we? So the title song obviously is called The Cat Came Back. The words were written by James Cavanaugh, and the music was co-written by Ernest Brewer and Dick Sanford.
And we tried our best to find her. Now she's home. She came home with a family behind her. The cat came back, and now that she's back, she's more than busy, I'll say. Knitting for a kitten. The cat came back.
There are no commercial recordings of this song available. If you want to listen to the song, go watch this cartoon. And fortunately, I was able to watch this in a restored HD print as opposed to the faded copy that I saw many, many years ago. So it was nice to revisit this one and see it look a little bit nicer. Oh, excuse me, not a little, a lot nicer than when I remember it. So a little bit about the songwriters for the song itself. For Dick Sanford, there really isn't much I could find. Really, all I could find is that his full name was Richard Young Sanford. He was born 1896 and he died in 1981. He was a songwriter, musician, and bandleader, and that's pretty much it. James Cavanaugh was born James Anthony Cavanaugh on October 29th, 1892 in New York City, and he died August 19th, 1967 in the Bronx, which is one of the 5 boroughs of New York City. He was a songwriter. He worked with different songwriters and collaborators. In the world of Warner Brothers cartoons, he's responsible for co-writing the songs I Like Mountain Music, which is also the name of the 1933 harmonizing Merry Melody short, and the Gaucho Serenade, which has been used in various Warner Brothers shorts. Now, let's talk a little bit about the third songwriter of this particular song, Ernest Brewer. So there's, again, not a lot of information that I could find for him, but all I could really find is this little chunk that I found on the Discogs website, and he was an American songwriter. However, he was originally born in Augsburg, Germany. So he was a German-born American songwriter. He was born the day after Christmas, December 26, 1886, and he died in 1981. I couldn't find his date of death, just the year, and he came to the United States when he was a kid, and he was a founding member of ASCAP, which is the American Society of Composers, Authors, and Publishers, in 1914. And besides that, the only information I keep seeing is that he wrote 2 songs, which I really dig the titles. One of them is, Does the Spearmint Lose Its Flavor on the Bedpost? So, that's a strange song title. That's from 1924. And the other one is called, Oh Gosh, Oh Golly, I'm in Love. And that's what I say whenever I meet a pretty woman, and I guess that's why I'm not married. So anyway, that's pretty much it when it comes to the songwriters for that particular cartoon. Not much to say, unfortunately. So let's jump ahead to the next cue. So the next one we hear is Quicker Than You Can Say Jack Robinson. The words were by Mac David, who is a very prolific lyricist who I'll talk about another time. And the music is by Peter Wendling and George W. Meyer. When I saw George Meyer, I'm like, wait, one of the writers on The Simpsons? But no, not that George Meyer. So the song is from 1935, and it was originally introduced, according to the sheet music, by Guy Lombardo and his Royal Canadians, who I go into detail about in the commentary that I did for Porky at the Crocodero. So this is the song you hear when the main mouse and the main cat, pretty much the 2 buddies get along, the Romeo and Juliet, the Hatfields and McCoys, whatever you want to call them. Actually, no, the Hatfields and McCoys fight each other. Anyway, the 2 warring factions and the 2 of them are like, hey, we could be friends. So they see each other and they meet in the middle of the house, and this is the song that you hear. You also hear a little bit of this song play once again near the end of the cartoon when the mothers are crying, woe is me, they're afraid that the worst has happened to their children, and the kids are like, yoo-hoo! and you spot them, and yeah, you hear that song again. Now, that's another one. I see Jack Robinson. I couldn't find any information for who specifically Jack Robinson is. I'm thinking of the baseball player, Jackie Robinson, the legendary player from the Brooklyn Dodgers who broke the color barrier in 1947, Baseball Hall of Fame, all that other stuff. His number is retired throughout all of baseball, but no, this song is not about him, because when this song was written, Jackie Robinson was probably a teenager at that time. So it's not about him, and he wasn't playing professionally at that moment. So now this next cue is the one that threw me off, because the song itself, I know it. I've heard it a ton of times in various Warner Brothers shorts, but I couldn't identify it in this cartoon, and I listened to it multiple times in multiple different scenes, and I just couldn't pick where exactly it is. So it is "Oh You Beautiful Doll." Words were written by Seymour Brown, and the music by Nat Ayre. And a little bit about the song. It's from 1911. It was originally from a Broadway musical. Nat Ayre is, like I said, the person responsible for the music, but not the words. And it was also used in the Max Fleischer Screen song. Now, I'm going to take a shot in the dark, because I found a recording online there's this YouTube page that I really wanted to shout out, because it's been helping me lately with the research for these commentaries, and I want to shout them out right now. So I want to shout out the YouTube page, and I'm subscribed to it. It's called Sheet Music Singer. And what I like about this page is that he actually puts the sheet music up, and someone sings along to the sheet music and has a piano playing. And it's definitely helped me with some of the previous Manny's Music Time segments that I've done for the channel. So thank you for your work. And also great to see the actual sheet music while it's being sung. It makes my life a lot easier. So getting back to "Oh You Beautiful Doll," and like I said, it's been used in various Warner Brothers shorts. But I'm assuming that it's in the scene where the cat and the mouse are hanging out. They find the record player and they start dancing to it. But I listened to the entire "Oh You Beautiful Doll" because I'm familiar with the refrain, "Oh you beautiful doll, you great big da 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 da," and I even listened to the verses, and what's in the cartoon and what's originally written in the song, that they sound nothing alike. And according to the cue sheet, "Oh You Beautiful Doll" is featured for 20 seconds, and that whole scene with the phonograph and whatever is about 40 seconds long. So if somebody notices "Oh You Beautiful Doll" somewhere else in the cartoon, please let me know in the comments, because I spent quite a while trying to hear it in this short, and I was listening over and over and over again, because I know in this short, Norman Spencer played around a lot with the title track, using different instruments, different alterations with the tempo, with the rhythm. He switches it in one part, the melody of the title track, in a minor key and things of that nature. But I just could not pick out that song, and it was frustrating me, because I'm like, I know this song. I've heard it a ton of times. So yeah, if somebody notices, please let me know. Now, the last cue is another song that's very familiar to us fans of Warner Brothers cartoons, "Ain't We Got Fun." The words are by Gus Kahn and Raymond P. Egan, not Egon. Of course, Egon Spengler, one of the Ghostbusters, my favorite as a kid. And the music is by Richard Whiting. The song itself is from 1921, and it is also the name of a 1937 Merry Melody. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to save more of the information about this specific song, as well as talk about the songwriters, when I get to 1937. And I just hit 1936, so you're going to have to wait a bit before I get there, folks. So, hold on to your horses. But, anywho, you hear that near the very end of the cartoon when the cats and mice are buddies and they get together, they start dancing. And I always get a kick out of the end when the cat reminisces about, wait a minute, that lousy rat poked me right in the eyes. And then they start feuding. And I wish I knew who animated that ending, because it looks so weird, and it's not the cleanest looking animation in the world, but I always get a kick of how like rough it looks near the end. Really plays up to the fighting that's going on. Oh, one more thing too about when I was listening to the dance scene. I really like that music in that scene. It sounds really cute. But one of the reasons why I was assuming that it was where, quote unquote, "Oh You Beautiful Doll" is, in the recording, in the actual cartoon, the music is in a key of E flat major, and the sheet music that I found online, the original version is in the same key of E flat major. So for all you music nerds there, go nuts and have fun. So those are my thoughts and my segment of Manny's Music Time for The Cat Came Back. I mean, I would prefer the cat didn't come at all, because apparently I found out recently, about a few years ago, that I'm allergic to cats. I never had allergies until a few years ago. I made it throughout my entire childhood and early adulthood. Now here in my 30s, I got allergies. I think also I'm allergic to tree pollen. I got to get tested. That's on my to-do list. But anyway, I would prefer if the dog came back, as Anthony likes to poke fun of my beautiful northern New Jersey / New York City accent. Well, I'm not from New York City, but I live very close to it. My dad was born in New York City. But you know, I got to talk about dogs here because I don't like cats. He's a cat guy, but I'm a dog guy. Needs more dog. You know, there's my Simpsons reference for the day, because you got to have it, folks. So thanks again for listening. Thanks for supporting Anthony's channel. Thank you for those of you that have found me on social media and follow my life as a musician, as well as a fan of Looney Tunes and Merry Melodies cartoons. So please follow me at social media at the Toony Tenor, TheToonyTenor, for my updates in music, my updates in overall nerddom. So thanks for watching. I hope your cat comes back, or your dog, or your mouse, or rat, whatever it may be, and have a great night, and go eat some cheese, because it was in the cartoon, even though I don't like cheese myself. Or, I don't know, what do cats eat? Tuna? All right, fine. I could go for a nice tuna fish sandwich. Hits a spot. Or tuna salad, whatever, you know what I mean. Or tuna with elbow macaronis. I really like those. You know, I used to eat them a lot as a kid. Alrighty, I'm digressing. I'll talk to you later. Bye, and so long, folks, even though he's not in that cartoon, because this is the blue ribbon print. Boo. One day, hopefully, we get the original titles. But that's another talk for another day. All right, bye.
Thank you, Manny. Again, as I mentioned earlier, this is one of those transition shorts where we can see the old ways, so the early 1930s design, and the early 30s style of storytelling is starting to go away, and now we've got the Tex Avery influence creeping in. Is this short a masterpiece or anything? Not really, but it's competent. It tells its story well, even if some bits might have been timed a little better and so on, but I can't find myself hating this short at all. It's quite charming and tells a nice story. Not the most funniest short in the world, but that's okay. This one gets 7 out of 10. It's a nice one. I like it. But that will do it for this one. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and until next time, take care.